All right. So this is eCDM in its dashboard form, right? Again, it's got that Angular Node.js feel to it. This is what you're looking at here is sort of our assets page. So you can see we're kind of catching assets that are SQL databases, Vmax storage groups, VMs, and Extreme IO consistency groups. What I'm going to focus in on here is this SQL prod group that you see. It's got 7 assets in it. And this is sort of all of the SQL databases that we've discovered and classified on this sort of steady state server. So we have these sort of default groups we call our discovered asset groups, and what we've done is we've pattern matched against the databases that we've discovered and stuck them into this SQL prod group, right? So when we talk about discovery and classification, that's really what we're talking about here. And you can see this thing's got some information on it. It's got some entry information. So this is sort of the target that we've set for anything that we stick into SQL prod. And it's also got a protection plan that we call AppDirect SQL on it. And that contains all of the SLOs. I can drill down into each asset, which is what I'm doing here, in order to actually see those SLOs on each asset and kind of see how I'm doing. Here is a case where I'm all green across the SLOs that I've set, but I can also go look back into time and drill down into a day where things weren't so great and see that here I've missed a recovery point objective back on that day in history, right? Another thing that we'll show you are just our rules. So this is when I was talking about kind of how we classify stuff similar to what you do in a VMware space, except for SQL databases as well. This is sort of what that rule looks like. And we're saying, hey, if the database name contains prod, then move it to our SQL prod group, right? Just a very simple rule, but we've got a broader set of metadata that we can key off of in order to match and drive rules. The next thing I'm going to show you just quickly is our ability to drill down into the data domain environment. Here I've got 2 data domains here. One of them is a DDVE, and I can drill down into that, and you can see sort of the objects that are living on that data domain, right? These are my M trees. And before I go away, it's the second M tree that we're highlighting here that I'm now covering with the Omnibox that we're going to go spin out to our database client, right? So that's me all set up, right? I've got my rules in place, right? So any new SQL database that I find, I've got a set of rules that are going to shuffle them off into groups that have SLOs and protection storage information attached to those groups. Does that all make sense? And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip out to the application server itself, right? And this is I'm going to focus in on this prod _ engineering 02. I don't know if you can see that, but that's the database that I care about here. This is the least impressive part of the demonstration, obviously, as I next through installing Boost onto the client. This can all be done silently as well, including this step where I'm saying, hey, putting in an IP address of the eCDM server. So typically these clients get deployed en masse, right, silently, and this is just another kind of field that can happen out of. So we should next through this, and I should have put a fast forward function in the video, but I'm just kind of going through, and we should drop out back in SQL Studio with that plugin available. So you can see that now my DBA has that sort of backup capability sitting there in his native tool, right? So as we go back, you can see now I've got my App Agent plugin available here. We're going to continue to look at Engineering 2, and this is sort of what it looks like, right? I can checkbox through, back up whatever I want. The missing piece here, and this is sort of where traditionally we'd cut a ticket. As you can see, I've got no information about where to send my backups, and I've got no credentials for any data domain system, right? So that's where eCDM then comes in and kicks in with a little bit of automation. So as this has happened, right, the client has come in and checked in with eCDM, said, hey, I'm here, right? And you can see this is our whitelist page. You can see that it's come in and said, and now it shows us that, we're missing that we have a new client, right? Let me just go back for one sec, if I can. So it shows us that we have a new client. You can go in and just hit accept if you want that control as new clients are showing up. You can also automate it, right? So under this actions box, I have the ability to go put in a CSV with IP ranges or a range of IPs. So this is the one manual step in the demo that I'm taking, but just because I think it's cool. But you can't automate that through with a whitelisting capability, right? So now that I've done that, what eCDM is going to do, it's going to send, it knows now what kind of oops, sorry. So it knows now, now that I've accepted this, it knows sort of what's on that client, what is the version of the database, for example. So it sends some bits out to the client that is sort of a discovery plugin. You can see I cut there a little bit, I had a little edit, as there's like a 2-minute lag there, which is a really, really bad demo. But now you can see that prod engineering O2 database is now in play for eCDM. And it came into that group that had that data domain information on it, that had those SLOs on it. And so we actually went out and configured that client with all the information that it needs to use that BL SQL M tree that was on the data domain. And here you can see that M tree now in play for the DBA. So aside from that sort of forced manual step that I took to actually approve the client coming into the system, we've now automated all the way through of discovering this database, giving it what it needs in terms of the credentials to access the data domain, giving it its target location, and I can go and the DBA can just start running backups, right? And we've done that without any tickets, anything like that. I cut again, because again, it's about a 2-minute lag from the point that I run that backup to the point that it makes it to my catalog, because we do a lot of batching in order to scale across a bunch of clients. So if I go into prod engineering O2, I can now see that I've got my SQL database. We have 2 data domain systems that we have copies on. One is the primary. You can see we call this the spork. The second step on the spork represents its M tree replica. And you can see the full backup that this thing has freshly taken, okay? So now I'm in business for actually monitoring SLOs and doing all that and kind of bringing it all together in an automated way.